Shouldn't be too much longer there. We're just waiting for everybody to join. So hopefully this will be a nice little dress rehearsal before our big live stream tomorrow. So just bear with me as we get started here and we'll get going here. Hopefully we get a few people watching, somebody asking a few questions, a nice little dress rehearsal before our big live stream show tomorrow. And that's tomorrow, January 10th at 1:30 p.m. So I hope everybody's doing well, if everybody's out there. Just going to make sure, we're actually getting some questions up there now, so that's great. We got a few people watching, so I appreciate that. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Just eliminating a little bit of background noise, other than my pooch over here beside me. So, first question there, as I said, thank you for joining in today. It might be a little glitchy. It's just a little dress rehearsal as we get ready for our big live show tomorrow, January 10th at 1:30 p.m. So anybody who is on here today, if there is a little glitch, I apologize. The internet's been a little bit off today, so I thought it'd be a good time just to see what happens during a live stream when the internet is not so good. Enough about me rambling about that. Let's get on with it today. We got a few questions already. And is the Jays going to make a trade finally? What's holding that up? Well, I think the big thing that's holding it up is Springer and JT Realmuto. As I said, I really believe the Jays are going to get in on JT as opposed to Springer, especially with Springer's crazy asking price now. I think they said around $175 million he's hoping for. He's not going to get that. It's like DJ LeMahieu hoping for $100 million. I don't see that happening as well. But I can assure you, once the Jays do make that signing for JT Realmuto, it's going to have a domino effect where they're going to make that trade with the Pittsburgh Pirates for Joe Musgrove, who's going to be a nice solid 3 or 4 piece in the Jays rotation. Somebody who's going to be cost effective over the next 2 years. He's going to make about $4 million next year. Maybe 10 if he has a great free agency or a great season. And the Jays could actually extend Joe Musgrove for maybe 3 years, $36 million. Kind of like the deal that A.A. Happ got with the Jays. So that's where I see a trade happening. I know a lot of people were really disappointed with the Jays, and we'll get into this tomorrow a little bit more. As I said, today is just a quick live chat. But that's with them missing out on Lindor. So I can see why somebody would ask the question, when are the Jays going to finally make a trade? And I think what really cost us with Lindor, and I'm happy about that, is that the Jays were just not going to give up Lourdes or Teoscar. And I think there was a discussion that was happening beginning at the season, and what really made the Jays really consider that was the haul that's recently been gotten for Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. So the Jays reconsidered, reevaluated a little bit, maybe lowered their expectations. The rumor is, and everything that I've read, is the reason why the Jays missed out on Lindor is simply because they didn't provide talent that was MLB ready. So that leads me to believe it could have been somebody like Manoah and Simeon Woods Richardson, Klofferstein. Maybe those 3 were included for that trade in Lindor, and ultimately he ended up with the Mets. And I'm comfortable with that. As I said, the Jays aren't a World Series team just yet, and really trading away some of our key prospects for a 1-year rental of Lindor didn't make sense to me unless it was one of those unique situations where we actually extended Lindor to complete that trade. But I don't think that's happened since it was a trade with the Yankees and a pitcher. He's escaping my mind. If you do know who that was, I think it was CC Sabathia now, was the last actual player to make that happen. Yeah, Jays won't get any high free agents. They're all talk, no action as usual. You know what? I kind of believe that sometimes. I get really irritated and impatient now. I guess the question is, what type of free agent? If we're making that big splash this year for the Blue Jays, who do we really want? And I shied away from George Springer just because I think it's going to be a massive overpay. And if I'm going to do an overpay, I don't want it for somebody who's going to play center field for maybe a year and then it's going to end up lumped into the corners. I want it to be for a catcher, and that's why I said if we're going to overpay, pay for JT. And if we're not going to get JT, maybe DJ LeMahieu, the best hitter right now in the free agency class, in my opinion, somebody who could put up plus 300 average for the next couple seasons and is extremely versatile on the infield. But at the end of the day, I do believe it's going to be JT. And I think the reason why the Jays are just being sluggish on this might not be the Jays, it might be JT. I think all these free agents right now are going to really try to stretch it out as long as they can to try to increase their value or the dollar amount that they're going to get. I've said this before, I believe in other years, somebody like JT Realmuto could easily command 160, maybe even $200 million contracts. Contracts were just getting insane with MLB players. Then COVID happened and that revenue dropped. So now JT Realmuto and players like DJ LeMahieu are going to have to suck it up and really sign somewhere between 125, maybe 150 if JT gets lucky. But I think in JT's mind, he's looking at it like I've lost $50 million. Could you imagine crying over that, you and me? I got to pay $150 million to play baseball. I am showing up every day with a huge smile on my face. That's just how I am. You know, free agent pitcher makes sense for the Jays. You know, I think Joe Musgrove's just going to happen because that trade almost happened last year. He got hurt, and that's the reason why it didn't happen. But I'm still, you know, big on Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove, though, isn't the type of pitcher that's going to get the Jays deep into the rotation. And I think it's going to come down to, do the Jays want to make a splash this year with a trade, or do they want to hold off to 2022? And if you look at some of the pitchers that are available in the free agency market for 2022, it's really scary and impressive. What worries me, though, about the Jays waiting till 2022 is maybe the revenue's back and then the Jays are just getting outbid. If there's ever a year where the Jays are going to be able to take advantage, it's this year. And this is what frustrates me about the Jays being a little bit impatient. The Jays are always going to have to overpay to get players here. It's just how it is in Toronto from time to time. And I'm not saying anything negative against the Toronto organization. In fact, most players who come out of Toronto at the end of it love it. And they say, what a great organization, what an awesome fan base. But it always takes a little bit of a pull to get them in there. So if the Jays don't take advantage this year, that could be really difficult for them moving forward when those costs or prices really jump up over the next few years. Sorry, my dog's chiming in here as well. I guess he really wants the Jays to make a signing too. Will the Jays trade for Nolan Arenado? Sorry, going back to my original question, what free agent pitcher makes sense? I would love the Jays to make a trade with Cincinnati for Luis Castillo. I think he is the ultimate gem right now. I like him better than Yu Darvish. I like him better than Blake Snell. He's an ace growing into an ace position. What I mean is he's just a little bit young, but he's arbitration eligible for the next 3 years. He's going to make between 4 to 6 million next year. So say 5 million, 12, and then 18 if he's an elite pitcher. Having somebody like that leading off the Jays rotation with Ryu would be an awesome 1-2 punch. It's going to cost us a ton though. And as I said in one of my previous vlogs, we might have to take on Mike Moustakas and his huge contract as well. I know he's been a strikeout machine last season, so that's something to really consider. But Moose could easily play third base, and I said that kind of like the Yu Darvish trade, where I was upset the Jays weren't in on that because I said the Jays could take on Darvish and Chris Bryant and his huge $21 million. So maybe the Blue Jays do something similar with Cincinnati and taking on Moose's big contract and Luis Castillo. It's going to easily cost us probably Lourdes. It's going to cost us Manoah, Simeon's Woods Richardson, and Clauferstein. So that's a huge, huge haul out of the Jays prospect pool. But we're getting somebody solid in return. And we're getting somebody solid for multiple years. So it's not like Lindor where you get that 1 year. By trading for Luis Castillo, it's a player that the Jays can continue to build off for the next 3 seasons and really push themselves deep into the postseason. As I said, 2022 to 2025 are going to be the years that the Jays own the American League. So this is a time to really put those blocks together, but it might not be the time to sell the farm. I really remember what happened to the Jays with Alex Anthopoulos, nothing against him, but when he left the organization, we had nobody left. So I don't want to see all the hard work that Ross Atkins and Shapiro has done for the farm system to be depleted for a 1-year rental. Nolan Arenado with Colorado is a really interesting trade. And I like the idea of it to a certain degree, as long as we don't go too deep. The reason being is, if you don't know Nolan Arenado's contract, he actually is kind of like Stanton, where he has, I think, 2 opt-out availabilities within that contract. One for sure, and that's after the 2021 season. You're going to pay him on average $32.5 million to 2026, if I remember correctly. if he doesn't opt out. So he's a huge gamble, but he's somebody who could solidify himself in third base. Additionally, with that, Nolan Arenado's frustrated. He wants to be on a team that's going into the postseason. He wants to be on a team that's competitive. That's definitely the Blue Jays. And you could see a resurgence in Nolan Arenado. That's a risk, though, because if Nolan Arenado has a resurgence, he could easily go back onto the free agent market and see if he could get a huge contract extension that carries him into maybe 2030 as opposed to 2026. So then you're kind of in that gamble like Francisco Lindor. And that's what makes Arenado a little bit interesting. Do you want to trade the farm for somebody who could be a one-year rental? What I think is going to happen with Nolan Arenado is I think he's going to be held off in Colorado. I think it's going to be frustration that's going to completely build throughout the season with the Colorado organization and him. And he's going to get traded probably before the All-Star break, just because of that frustration that's going to build. And I could see him being somebody who gets traded in June. The only competition for Nolan Arenado, in my opinion, is going to be Chapman from Oakland. I did a vlog where I said I think Oakland's going to trade Matt Chapman. I think I was a little bit, I don't want to say too quick or on the draw there. I actually think it's going to be next season now that I have a little bit more time to think about it. But Oakland just has that reputation like Tampa Bay to trade away players when they get close or too expensive in arbitration. So I could see easily Oakland doing that. I think it's going to be Chris Davis that gets traded this season, but the only way Chris Davis is going to get traded is if anybody takes a gamble on that $17 million. Additionally to that, Oakland's not going to get nothing in return for Chris Davis except saving $17 million. So that's going to be the competition for Nolan Arenado going into next season for trading, especially if Chris Davis returns to any type of form. I think the prediction for him next season is him to bat around 230, 1.5 WAR, 25 home runs. Nolan Arenado obviously is going to easily exceed this. This is somebody who can hit up to 300, ding in over 30 home runs. And if he's angry and wants to get traded and he's putting up that production, it makes it a little bit easier for Colorado to make that trade happen, because the better that Nolan Arenado is, the bigger return Colorado is going to get. It's not like Nolan Arenado is one of those players that's just disgruntled and nobody wants to deal with him. Kind of like what's going on with Marcus Stroman, maybe. Nolan Arenado is just one of those players that wants to play for a competitive team. And I'm going to talk about Marcus Stroman because I'm a little bit frustrated with him. I'm really disappointed. I love swagger. I love somebody who connects with their fan base on social media. I even kind of like how Trevor Bauer is teasing people a little bit, although that could get a bit annoying at times. Marcus Stroman just sticking his finger into the Jays organization kind of frustrated me a little bit. And he was really preemptive on that. And I would love to see the Jays actually go out and make some trades this season, get aggressive, and even more so for 2022. See the Mets maybe not extend Marcus Stroman and see him left out in the cold. So that's my hope for Marcus Stroman right now. Closing pitchers for the Jays. Well, I was kind of thinking Brad Hand for a little bit because of his price tag. And then I started looking at Brad Hand a little bit more, and I know the Mets are going to make another big signing in their bullpen. And the reason why I predicted Brad Hand to go to the Mets is simply because he's a lefty. And I believe the entire bullpen for the Mets right now, if not almost everyone, is righty. So he gives that balance to the Mets bullpen, and he's another awesome signing, and it allows Steve Cohen to say, hey, I'm spending as well. So that leaves the Jays looking at Liam Hendriks. And I think Liam Hendriks, and I just finished off this vlog today, not to give it away, but I think he's actually going to go to the White Sox. I think he's going to be the last big signing for the White Sox this offseason, and it's going to be a great offseason for the White Sox. I think he's going to get 4 years, $46 million. And it's going to be that little bit of a price tag that's going to make the Jays get a bit impatient again. This frustrates me. So who are the Jays going to settle on? Right now, I'm thinking Alex Colomé. And why Colomé? Well, he came out of the Cleveland organization, so there's always that reputation with how the Jays do business with Cleveland. The Jays were looking at him possibly last year anyway, so there's a bit of homework already done. And I could see Alex Colomé going for a 2-year contract, and maybe even in the Jays' favor, a 1 year with a 1-year option on that. Maybe something like that was recently signed, 2 years, $16 million. maybe 1 year, $10 million with a $6 or $8 million option. But I really see Alex Colomé probably coming to the Toronto Blue Jays into their bullpen next year, and he's kind of the replacement for Ken Giles. And it's too bad about 100 Miles Giles because I really, really liked him. And before he got hurt and blew out his arm, I really thought he was going to be a candidate that the Jays made that extension with. Now I'm happy that they didn't because he got hurt. Imagine having his payroll now on the Jays' books now that we just got rid of Tulo's payroll. That's right, if you didn't realize that, we've been paying Tulo to sit on the beach for the last couple of years and paying him quite well. I think at one point he was one of the highest paid players on the Jays' payroll without even showing up. Could Springer come to the Blue Jays? Possibly. I mean, you never know what the Blue Jays are going to do. When I think of George Springer, though, and the price tag that it's going to come with him exceeding $150 million, that's probably what it's going to take to get him to the Jays. It reminds me a little bit of Vernon Wells. I'm not comparing the two players in regards to their production, but if you remember, we were kind of straggled with Vernon Wells' contract that was around 136, 138 million, and was actually very impressed because that was one of the first things that Alex Anthopoulos was able to do when he basically unloaded him to the Los Angeles Angels. So if Springer does come, it's going to be a massive overpay. And I just don't see the Jays doing that. It's just not their reputation. And I think the Jays could look at it like, if we're going to do the overpay, then let's look at it as catcher, because with, paying for JT Realmuto, and I know I just discussed this, that leads a domino effect for them to really get the deal done with Pittsburgh and Joe Musgrove. So that JT Realmuto signing has a 1-2 punch in it, where if they look at George Springer, I think there's better options over him. Certainly more cost-effective options. And you could look at Jackie Bradley Jr. for 2 years. And that's the other issue with George Springer. George Springer is only going to be your center fielder for maybe 1-2 years max based on his defensive ability, based on what most analysts say. But even if the analysts are wrong, we have Austin Martin coming up in the minors. And I know he played the infield for Vanderbilt, but everybody says he's going to be the center fielder for the Blue Jays in the future. So by signing Jackie Bradley Jr. to maybe 2 years, $15 million, it allows us to have that financial flexibility to make additional signings or maybe extend Vlad and Bo to long-term contracts. And it really solidifies the defense in center field. No, Jackie Bradley Jr. is not a great hitter like George Springer. I'm not saying that. But he really provides elite defensive ability, something we haven't seen in center field since Superman, Mr. Kevin Pillar. So having that plus defensive in center fielder and maybe moving Randall Grichuk, if we can't get him off the books, to DH, is something that I could see the Jays doing. And then just solidifying the two corners, I guess, with Teoscar and Lourdes if we don't do an additional signing. And another additional signing I like would be maybe Michael Brantley. He'd be an awesome hitter, somebody who could be number 6 or 7 in our lineup. And saying 6 and 7 to Michael Brantley is actually doing him a bit of a disservice. I could see him coming for 3 years, $40 million, and be a nice little upgrade additionally for the outfield. The problem with that is we get a little bit crowded. So if we're signing somebody like Michael Brantley, then somebody has to go. Everybody would love it to be Randall Grichuk, but that's a tough sell. But I could see him going if we did make a trade for a bigger player and somebody like Teoscar or Lourdes was involved in that trade. Yeah, I like prospects due to the CBA. That's interesting. I like how they do things with qualifying offers. I like how they really protect the minor league system to a certain degree. But I'm bullish on the minor league system. I think that the minor leagues are sometimes just as important as your major league team. And I think that's why I love teams like the Dodgers. I know they have money. But let's take the Dodgers aside and break down their minor league team. It's amazing how they keep producing top talent that they can reinvest over and over again so that they can have a balance between their big free agent signings and their prospects coming up. It's something that Tampa does really well, and Oakland too. And it's something that I really like the CBA protecting. Bryant to the Jays. I could see that happening. It's going to be how much do the Cubs want. For me, Chris Bryant coming to the Jays is going to be just about picking up his 20 million bucks. I'm cool with that. Maybe somebody like, I don't know, Simeon Woods Richardson, and even that's going way up there. But that's as high as I would go for Chris Bryant in 1 year. Maybe he has an awesome year and the Jays could do some sort of extension, but it's not going to be $20 million a year unless Chris Bryant has an amazing year. Yeah, Liam Hendricks and Brad Hand. As I said, Brad Hand I think is going to be going to the Mets just because he's a lefty. And I think Liam Hendricks is going to the Chicago White Sox, and that's going to be their last big signing this offseason. And that's awesome for the White Sox. There's nothing wrong with them not going out and making additional big signings. They've done a massive upgrade to their team. They're going to be a beast in the American League. They're going to give the Yankees a run for their money. And they have kept some of their prospects there, some of their top prospects, in fact, and left themselves enough financial flexibility moving forward that they can make additions and more signings in 2022. And that's going to be something that we talk about for the big live stream tomorrow, January 10th, because we're going to talk about some of the big free agents that are actually available next year and maybe why the Jays shouldn't commit so much money. And tomorrow, just to go on, today, as I said, was a bit of a dress rehearsal. We're also doing the live vlog at 1:30, but we're doing the prize draw. So if you haven't watched the vlog that we did with the trivia question, make sure you go after the live stream today, watch that vlog, enter the comments, the trivia answer, and you're automatically entered in the draw to win the Blue Jays toque. So I'm going to answer two more questions and then we'll just wrap it up for today. I appreciate everybody who came on to watch for this sort of dress rehearsal for the big show tomorrow. And the big question for me was, which young Blue Jays are untouchable and who would I move? That's the first one. And for me, it's going to be Bo Bichette, to me, is unmovable, as well as Vladdy at this point. And the reason why I think Bo Bichette is actually the future of the Blue Jays, even a little bit more upside than Vladdy, just because of the positions that he can play. And I would never trade Vladdy anyways. I think he has tremendous upside. And if you were trading Vladdy away right now, it's simply because you're not going to get anything close to what he's worth. Vladdy's going to be a superstar. We just got to be a little bit more patient with him, allow him to grow. And have you seen the pictures of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. this offseason? This guy is slimming down. This guy wants to play third base, but this guy I think is going to be a hitting machine. And fingers crossed that this is really the breakout year for Vladdy. Additional to that, somebody I would possibly consider trading, but it would have to be a huge return, is maybe Nate Pearson or Biggio. And when I say these guys, I'm saying it has to be a massive, massive return. The type of players that are going to get the Jays into the World Series. Biggio, I just think, is expendable to a certain degree if it was a huge return. I know people are huge on him, but I see him being more of a 250, 260 hitter for his lifetime, but somebody that could be absolutely versatile on the infield. Secondly to that, Nate Pearson, when he throws at 100 miles an hour, I just worry that he's going to blow out his arm. And I have to knock on wood on that almost right off the hop. I don't want to ever see him. But if we were to trade somebody like him away for, I don't know, say maybe a couple years ago when Christian Yelich was on the trade market, it's a no-brainer for me. But again, Nate Pearson, if he's going to go, has to be a superstar. Secondly, and the last question before I wrap it up for today, is if I had my dream signings this offseason, who would it be? And I mean, I guess this, if we had no budget, what would I do for the Blue Jays? Well, the first one would have been Ha-Seong Kim. I know that came down to weather, but if we could have offered him more money to get that deal done, that would have been my first dream signing. And I know he's not a huge name, but he's just so versatile, and I think he's going to be the next DJ LeMahieu, possibly. Maybe not somebody who hits 360, but somebody who hits 300 and hits 300 for a couple of years, as well as get you those stolen bases. So that would be my first one. Second one would be DJ LeMahieu. I mean, I know he wants $100 million, but even Bo Bichette said DJ LeMahieu is one of the best hitters he's ever seen. And he went so far to say is, hey, I would move positions if I have to get DJ LeMahieu on the team. I'm not saying that would happen. DJ LeMahieu could be our DH. What an awesome DH who just comes up and plays every position and gives everybody a day off. Or he could go into second base. Maybe that trade with Biggio happens for Luis Castillo. When I say Biggio, super utility player, you better believe it. He's awesome. So if I'm trading Biggio away, it's got to be Luis Castillo plus more. But certainly DJ LeMahieu would be a dream signing. And then following JT Realmuto. If we did those three free agent signings, wow. The Jays lineup is just a serious threat 1 through 9. And if you notice, I didn't say George Springer. And that has nothing to do with the fact that he's a Houston Astro and banging on trash cans. You know, maybe he comes to Toronto and George Springer knows the guy in the white suit. So it all works out well. That's a joke there. You got to be a true Blue Jays fan to know who the guy in the white suit is. Put it in the comments right there if you do know. But anyways, that's the only reason why I'm not big on George Springer. I think he's somebody who's going to decline in his plus 30s. He's still going to be an awesome baseball player, but not a baseball player you want on your team that you're paying $25 to $30 million, because then he becomes a bit of a liability, somebody who eats up your budget and allows you to have less flexibility moving forward. So that's not why I'm not big on him. Additionally, Marcell Ozuna, not too big on him as well. I think he's going to be very much the same, and that's why he's kind of left out in the cold right now. Well, thank you so much for listening to me ramble on for 30 minutes. As I said, this was just a dress rehearsal, working out the last little bit of kinks before we get ready for our big show tomorrow. So if you have nothing to do and you want to listen to me ramble, hey, even if you put me on mute, tune in tomorrow, January 10th, 1:30 p.m. We're also going to be doing the live draw. So if you haven't gone and checked out the prize blog, make sure you do so after this. All you have to do is subscribe, answer the trivia question in the comments below, and you're done. You're entered, and we're giving away an awesome Blue Jays too. I hope everybody stays safe out there. Everybody has an awesome 2021, and we'll talk soon. Take care, guys. Bye.